Welcome back to it, guys. The Thursday edition of the Now Morning Show is where we are shining a spotlight on that new credit card foreign limit. Take a look.
We're turning our attention to the latest move by local banks to bring a sharp cut to foreign credit card limits for businesses and for the and everyday citizens. This morning on the Now Morning Show, we are chatting with the chairman of Tobago Division of the TC Chamber of Commerce, Curtis Williams.
Good morning, and good morning to your listeners and your viewers. It's a pleasure being on air.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you back on set. Let's get straight into the conversation this morning, Curtis. Specifically, the limit has dropped to about $2,500 US and $1,000 US for new card holders. What is the workaround or alternative for business owners?
Well, on receiving those news, it sends a bit of very much concern in the small business sector here in Tobago. We rely mostly on our credit cards now. Since we can't get cash at the bank to do any kind of a business, we were more relying on our credit card to do all our purchasing, etc., to pay all our fees, online fees, and so forth. And now, as the limit gone down to 2.5, it impact really hard on some of our SMEs here. Some of them even going to cut inventory. Some said, well, it's probably time for me to pack up because it doesn't all go well for us here. So hence the reason why we are asking the central bank governor, the new central bank governor, and the Minister of Finance. Republic Bank and FCB Bank are ours. And we think that these banks are supposed to be the last entity to be reducing credit card limits because the foreign entities did reduce the limit. And we expect Republic Bank and FCB to hold out because that was the only straw that the SMEs were holding on to in terms of getting access to US to do whatever small business they have to do on the island. And now as it's cut now, it's really affecting us in a very, very, very terrible way. And I know we're coming close to Christmas, and I can see that ripple effect going all the way into Christmas. And then again, what's the end of it all? The card is going to go down to $1,000. It's going to go to $500. Now your credit card would just be a local card. There would be no international aspect of it. And business that was relying again on importing stuff, getting stuff from abroad to bring into the space, whether it's raw material or finished product, we just can't do it anymore. The classic about it is those businesses that are involved in tech, because we're pushing tech, we're pushing online presence to pay for all the subscriptions in iCloud and all the plugins. They are grossly affected in Tobago, and all those some of them were crying to me, coming complaining and asking us what the chamber can do for us because it don't augur well at all with them.
Curtis, from your viewpoint, how effective are banking measures like this in addressing systemic foreign exchange imbalances?
Well, the bank itself, the bank themselves, their hands are tied in some instances. But when we look at what's happening in the space, you're getting, everyone force everyone to go to the black market to get US dollars. At the Cambios, the US is actually selling for they're buying at 8 to 1, and they're selling at 9 point something. And when you look at the bank is this same US, the bank is selling at 6 point something as compared to buying at 6.1 buying and selling at 6.89. So it doesn't make any sense. So I think that somewhere along the line, something needs to be weighed out there. And I think that, again, I call upon the central bank governor, Mr. Larry Hawaii, to look at it and come to the small business. We are the one who's suffering most in Tobago. The small business are really, really, really getting the pinch of this.
So I just wanted to get into that point of the conversation, particularly how does it affect Tobago? Because, of course, we do know that a lot of goods and services are already more expensive than here in Trinidad.
Yeah, definitely. It will have a ripple effect. We will see some prices we have to change because it is harder to get the goods. And when you do get it now, then it will be probably sourced in the US on the black market, or maybe going around by buying from a third party, which doesn't allow you to afford the price point that you used to afford before. You yourself can't get it anymore. So you're now relying on a third party to bring that good to Trinidad and then resell to you now. So you will not enjoy that nice pricing that you used to give the Tobago customers. You no longer can do that. You're definitely going to have some prices. There's some prices fluctuation, definitely.
And do you think that these restrictions are going to widen the gap between the large businesses with Forex access and the smaller businesses?
It would definitely widen the gap. It meant that the small business and them would just start to shrink, the inventory would shrink, and they themselves would probably just get, fed up and just said, okay, I can't do this anymore. And some of them is already signaling that to me. They said, what is the end of it all? It's going to go down to $1,000. What will happen to me? Even a normal family going abroad on vacation, you going abroad on vacation and your credit card limit is 2005, and you have to pay a hotel for your family of 450 US a night, and then you have to pay for other things, the meals and all of that. You really can't survive. You really, really cannot survive. So you have to have multiple credit cards, and then having the credit cards, as you mentioned, the new ones are $1,000. So you see the kind of tailspin you put in the whole society, both business and the community, in really, really, really a big tailspin going to happen there.
As of right now, have you seen any business delay expansion or shutdown of operations given the result of the Forex challenges?
I see scale down. I see a lot of them scale down. The inventory have scaled down. Yeah, definitely have scaled down tremendously. And that's what I'm seeing in Tobago. The inventory have gone way, way, way down. They're shrinking the inventory. There's no two ways about it, because they can't afford to carry the extra inventory that they used to have because of the limited amount of access to Forex in Tobago.
And what about the possible long-term effects, especially when we look at tourism in Tobago? What do you foresee possibly happening if things aren't changed?
Well, I seen a fallout with some of the sectors, and we're trying our best to look for direct foreign investment. We are looking at possibility of investors coming in with the new tourism trust that we have here. Even the land license, as we mentioned, was something that was hindering us in a positive way, and we want to make sure that something has been done positive to make sure that land license could encourage foreign investors into the space. We're looking at the new product, the hotels, and because we have a new terminal building that hopefully going to open up sometime next month. And we're really looking forward to where the investment could come in, where foreign investment, so that could bring a little bit of trickling effect coming down. At least we'll have some US floating around in the space. So we're looking forward to that. Other than that, I don't see anything else happening. I see they have conversations, central bank having with some of the banks, but at the end of the day, I think the government need to put their hand down and really do something about it.
Before we get into some possible recommendations for the central bank and, of course, for the Ministry of Finance, how sustainable is import substitution for SMEs in Tobago, especially with the domestic product limitations?
Well, we look at it already. We said, okay, fine, let's look at how we can reduce our import covers, looking at rural, local. But we always come back to the same spot where we need to get the raw materials. And if we can't access the raw materials, simple raw materials, we can't access them because of the restriction in Forex, then we can't do much manufacturing. Again, we would have to be resellers. So we just be all consumers and resellers of a product in Trinidad or a branch of something in Trinidad. So all the innovation and all the exciting things that Tobago small business innovation wanted to innovate, they're just limited because they will not be consumers and just probably resellers of product coming from Trinidad.
So moving forward, do you have any suggestions that we could use to stabilize the Forex supply and demand or solution for this?
Well, I can look at one and tell the bank, hey, put the thing back to $5,000. It was 10, you reduced it to 5, now you carry it to 2.5. Because the business, small business, can't have access to cash at the bank. So leave the credit card where it is, especially the government-assisted banks or the government-owned banks like FCB, Republic Bank. Keep it like that. Let's see how we can make this thing level off. And then we're looking at opening up investment into the Tobago space, into Trinidad and Tobago, foreign direct investment into Tobago, so we can start to get back that foreign exchange that we used to have, that we once enjoyed in Tobago, lots of foreign exchange on the market. So those are two possible things that I think they can do in the short term. in the long term now, we have to look at how we look at the thing overall in terms of, I know we were looking at oil and gas, we're moving away from the oil and gas economy. We're looking at all the tariff that has been coming in. The tariff has been attracted to our exports. So we could start to talk like one and dealing with that whole tariff issues. And we look for different markets in which we can export and get from exchange. Yeah.
Curtis, is there a possibility or a role for the Forex purchasing program, maybe something pooled with the chamber itself?
Well, we asked to be part of the voice, part of the conversation. So when decisions like this are to be made, we really want to be part of those decisions. And I mean, there's so much things happening in the space, and you exit this small business. We're not talking about the big guys. The big guys can handle it. But the small businesses, the ones that are going to fold up very, very fast, because we don't have the shock absorbers like the big guys who can go and put a plant in different countries and have access to foreign exchange. The small business will just have to take the shock, and then we would suddenly just disappear. There would not be a micro, medium, and small business industry in Tobago, because we would just continue shrinking until we just no longer exist.
You know, it's interesting because what you were just referencing a little bit earlier, we're speaking about a brand new terminal, talking about hotels and all of these great developments that are happening, but also now with this continued conversation around Forex, is it a possibility there could be a long-lasting impact on our tourism?
Yes, definitely. There could be an impact, and we're hoping that with the advent of the terminal building and the new plants at and Northern Hilton in Roxborough, they proposed to have a new plant there, and also the Marriott and the other plants that wanted to come on the island. Those could be a big game changer, a big game changer. So we're looking forward to those things. And so we're asking the government to weigh in on what's happening in Tobago. It's important that they understand that Tobago is such a fragile economy. And anytime Trinidad sneezes, we catch the cold. And so we have to be very, very careful. And the Prime Minister and her team have to look at Tobago, that we are very fragile. So any little thing, it could really have an effect on us in Tobago.
Before we close our conversation, Curtis, this has been something that is ongoing. So if you had anything to say, particularly to policymakers when it comes to the Forex situation in Trinidad and Tobago, what would you say?
Well, I would tell the policymakers and them, especially the central bank, you need to have that conversation with the small business on the ground. We on the ground, we feeling the pinch of what's happening here. I know someone might be at a different stage and telling you what's happening on the ground, but it's always nice for the central bank and the Ministry of Finance to understand what's happening with the small business on the ground. So it's a grand opportunity for you to meet with us, meet with the players in the field, and understand what's happening on the ground, whether it's the black market, whether it's happening on the ground, how easy in accessing, how easy in doing business in Tobago, especially when you have to import and all the other stuff. And then you will get a clear understanding. So when policy decisions have to be made, you will be making them with Tobago in mind, with the small business in mind. These people, the suitcase traders, you will make these decisions will be made with a lot of things, because the SMEs really comprises a big sector in Tobago, a huge sector. And it's important that you keep this sector going, because that's what a lot of us strive on here in Tobago, the small business sector.
And Curtis, thank you for joining us this morning. It's been a pleasure to have you as always, hoping that you have a wonderful day and some great weather comes to Tobago later today.
I appreciate it, and thanks for having me.
Our pleasure as always. Curtis Williams, Chairman of the Tobago Division of the TT Chamber of Commerce, this morning on the Now Morning Show. Stay tuned. Tobago Thursdays continues right after this break.